Farm Credit Bank of Texas Documentation Training for Managers. In this training, we'll talk about why proper documentation is important, discuss strategies for effective documentation, such as when, what, and how. We'll discuss litigation issues and a culture of documentation. Let's talk about why documentation is important. Documentation provides the company with evidence during legal disputes, and a paper trail is usually the difference between winning and losing in court. Documentation ensures that we handle situations consistently, making sure we treat all our employees the same. Treating all of our employees the same will help reduce the chances of a discrimination lawsuit. When managers document accurately and completely, it gives the company credibility, which is exactly what our company needs to successfully defend itself in court. Documentation is more important than ever because of ever-changing employment laws, such as Family Medical Leave and the Americans with Disability Act. Let's talk about when to document. Documentation is important in all dealings between managers and employees, such as complaints and claims. We need to document an employee's complaint for a couple of reasons. First, because we'll investigate complaints and claims, so the company needs a written copy. Second, we'll be able to show our response to the concerns. Documentation is important for coaching and performance reviews. Documenting coaching strategies shows the company's good faith effort to help employees succeed. Documented performance reviews give a long-term and ongoing record of employees' performances. When kept consistently, documentation provides a starting point for measuring how well goals were met. And documenting discipline and termination. Of course, documenting disciplinary measures is important. This way, employees are aware of possible consequences if they don't improve their behavior or performance. Good documentation shows that termination wasn't the first option. Remember, any termination can end up causing a legal hassle for the company, so it's essential to keep complete records. Let's talk about what to include in your documentation. You should describe what happened, when it happened, and where it happened. Include the date, location, and time of the incident. Include a date of memorandum, a detailed description of the employee's conduct or behavior. List specific examples, current and past. List the names of people involved or witnesses. Discuss which rule or policy was violated, if any. List the consequences or discipline and what the employee may do to correct behavior. List what will happen if the behavior continues, and include your objective recordings of your observations. You should address performance issues when the problem arises. Don't wait until the performance appraisal to raise performance issues. When a problem arises, notify the employee of the issue and document what he or she was told. It may be necessary to take a job action prior to the next appraisal. Always tell the employee what they must do to improve. You should document misconduct, such as violations of work rules and standards of conduct. Documenting is a balancing act. Don't over-document trivial items, but don't wait until an issue is at a very serious level to begin documentation. Include attendance issues. Document incidents of absenteeism and their effect on productivity, deadlines, etc. Let's talk about performance appraisals. You should have regular and accurate performance evaluations. This provides employees with a way to learn how to improve. It also can put poor performers on notice of what they must do to improve. It also provides support for disciplinary action and/or discipline. Make sure you provide accurate performance appraisals. Don't give a good or satisfactory rating just to avoid conflict. This impedes the ability to make good business decisions and undermines your position in litigation. Make sure you have specific examples when possible. If you can't think of any, you may want to reconsider an unsatisfactory rating. This should be discussed in detail with the employee. And also, avoid giving merit increases to employees who are not performing satisfactorily. Let's talk about disciplinary documentation. You should always document discipline. Verbal warnings should be documented in your working file. If you're administering discipline, have the employee sign the document to acknowledge receipt of the discipline. If the employee refuses to sign it, document the fact that they were present but refused to sign the document. If the employee disagrees with the disciplinary document and requests an opportunity to place his or her version of events in their personnel file, that request should be accommodated. This practice shows that the employer is being fair and will make it difficult for the employee to expand on his account of the incident later in time. Most of all, make sure you review any written disciplinary document with Human Resources before administering it to the employee. All discharge decisions must be reviewed by Human Resources and approved by the CEO or his designee. Human Resources will coordinate the appropriate next steps, which may include consulting with legal counsel. The review will check to see if similar situations have been handled in a similar manner. Different supervisors may be consistent in the way they deal with similar misconduct, but consistency between supervisors may be lacking. You should have sufficient documentation to convince the reviewer that discharge is a fair decision and that you can prove your legitimate business reasons for discharge if the decision is challenged in a lawsuit. Make sure you have at least 2 individuals involved in the termination meeting, and take notes that include what the employee was told and what the employee said, and perhaps what the employee did not say. For example, if the employee did not dispute the reason of discharge, this should be noted. The employer representatives who attend the meeting should also be included in your documentation. Any formal documentation about performance or misconduct should be maintained in the personnel file. Oftentimes, it's only kept in a supervisor file, which can be lost when the supervisor leaves or perhaps is transferred, and HR may not know about it. Email documentation regarding performance or misconduct should be printed and filed. This avoids losing data if a system crashes or email archives are purged. In discovery, electronic records will also need to be produced. You should document as if third parties may later scrutinize your every move. Every word you write or type may one day be titled Exhibit A. If there are eyewitnesses, name them in the documentation. If work rules are violated, document it. When documenting the fact that an employee has violated a work rule, specify what the rule was. Make the documentation complete. Don't treat it as a personal note. Make sure that a third party who knows nothing about the situation will be able to read the statement and understood what took place. Describe the conduct that occurred. Be honest, don't embellish, and fully describe the event. If there is a history that is necessary to understand the event that you are documenting, then recite the history. Be consistent and treat all employees alike by requiring them to follow all of the work rules. And don't be accused of playing favorites, or worse, of discrimination by not being consistent. Also, do not over-document. If many trivial or insignificant matters are documented, it may appear that you're not being fair and are out to get the employee. Well-written documentation that fully explains the incident and the issues is strong evidence. Poorly written or ambiguous documentation won't help much and may even hurt your defense. Documentation that is inconsistent with your employment decisions will be fatal. Use caution in electronic communications. Don't treat them too casually. Watch for cues that could lead the recipient to misinterpret the sender's tone of voice. Be careful about who the email is sent to. Autocomplete can be a problem if you are not careful. Inform employees that company emails and computers are the property of the company, that there is no expectation of privacy, and that they may be reviewed by the company at any time. Human Resources is your friend. Consult early and use their expertise. Managers and supervisors must understand that documentation is a job duty. In summary, be thorough, be fair, be consistent, preserve documentation, and consult Human Resources early.